We are not a people who demean ourselves in that way. But for them to know this, they have to know what kind of society produced them. Coming out of a collective society, being forced into an individual society in order to survive. And this is an assumption. You think that you must take on the traits of your oppressor, when your role is not to take on the traits of your oppressor. Your role is to prepare to destroy your oppressor. His conduct in the world disgraces everything that can be called democracy, everything that can be called Christianity. It's even a disgrace to the thing that means the most to him, capitalism. He's misconducting himself in relationship to the one thing he used to try to hold on to the world, the apparatus of exploitation. Why can't we tell our children that whosoever God is, all people have the right and the responsibility to look at God through their own imagination and address God in a language of their own creation? Why then can't we calm ourselves down, then calm them down? What happened to the big kitchens where the family used to gather, sip some coffee, some lemonade, and began to discuss matters pertaining to the family? And if it gets too delicate, send the children out to play. And when the door opened, it is settled. Our Supreme Court would have met and rendered a decision. We didn't take the matter to the oppressor, not expecting any mercy or understanding from him in the first place. We handled it within the structure of the family. What are we going to tell our children about that period in human history before the first European wore a shoe or lived in a house that had a window, and we produced enduring societies? We did not have a word for jail because no one had ever gone to one. Didn't have a word for orphanage because no one had ever thrown away children. Didn't have a word for nursing home or old people's home because no one ever threw away grandpa and grandma. If we could fashion a society that had that much humanity, what can we do for ourselves today? And how can you explain the contradiction of a people who can build the pyramids and can't maintain a candy store in Harlem? The question came up in a meeting in Senegal. Yes, it was an arrogant member. I don't even know how he got there. He was in ethnic midstream. He didn't exactly belong to us. He didn't exactly not belong to us. He was what we call Hispanic, and he said he had enough African blood to justify being there, but he had no African loyalty. You must have African loyalty. Having the blood is not enough. You have no commitment. And he kept asking the question very arrogant and contemptuously. Yes, You people built the pyramid. But where are you now? What are you building now? Can you build the pyramid now? Now I finally got tired of all this harangue. Do we need it now? Let's now build what we need right now. We need a railroad system stretching across Africa. And we need to build it. We need to have mining engineers, metal specialists to get the ore from the African earth, not to buy the rails from outside. Everything needs to come from inside of Africa itself. Now that's what we need right now. We need a road system, a rapid transportation in Africa that will take 100 years to complete. If it takes 100 years to complete, if we started this year, we've got only 99 more years to go. But if you don't start it, you never know when it's going to be finished. We must, in this generation, start things that a generation will have to complete, that another generation will have to complete. What are we going to tell our children about how we survive away from home? What are we going to tell them about the circumstances in Europe and in the world that caused them to be away from home? What are we going to tell them about the massive resistance movements in this country? What are we going to tell them about the most successful slave revolts we've had in the Americas, have been in South America and in the Caribbean islands? Not only what are we going to tell them, what are we going to tell the people of the Caribbean islands who seem to have forgotten about it? At what point do we tell our children, stop imitating imitators? You're imitating someone who's imitating you. But if you understand the message, you would tell our children, don't waste your time with Greek fraternities and sororities because they got all this nonsense and hazing just to get into a sorority and a fraternity. You have to literally humiliate yourself. Nothing that you have to humiliate yourself to get into is worth being a part of. The African secret societies, where the Greeks stole the idea in the first place, were societies of responsibility, responsible people. How do we get this point across to our people? And how do we tell our children going to church while a European painted that picture up there? There's no proof that Christ looked that way. We're not arguing against Christ. We're arguing against somebody else's dictation of him arbitrarily as being white. We're not. All we have to say is that where he was born, if he wasn't a Greek, he wasn't a Roman, and the Greeks and the Romans were both mixed,